Hi, I'm Katie, and today I'm going to be going over to do DATEDIF, COUNTIF, and pivot tables on Google Spreadsheets. I'm using a spreadsheet that I created for my rabbit business. So to start off with DATEDIF, I used it under this Days Alive category here. So basically the formula that I ended up using was it would take the difference between G2 and H2 and put the number of days difference between it here. But if H2 was blank, it would create an error message. So basically I combined this DATEDIF formula with an if error formula. So if this DATEDIF, if this one was blank, it would come up with an error. So basically if it came up with an error, we wanted it to put alive in this category. So that's basically how that works. So if we go ahead and change one of these, let's say this rabbit ended up dying 5/22 of 20, and we hit enter, it would automatically translate to the number of days that the rabbit had lived. Going on to COUNTIF, I use COUNTIF. I wanted to know how many of my rabbits were dying between certain ages. So I started with 1 week or less. The formula we used was a COUNTIF formula, so we wanted to count it if the column I was less than or equal to 7. And we ended up with 6. And then I wanted to know how many of them died between 6 months to a year old. So this one was a little bit more complicated. We ended up using a COUNTIFs formula, so you have to add, it'll be 2 different things, so it's going between a range. So for this one, if the data in column I was greater than or equal to 181 days, or if it was less than or equal to 365 days, we wanted to count it. So right now, there is a 1 in this 6 months to a year category. If we take this one back out and turn it back to alive, this one will automatically go back to 0. So let's say we wanted to create our own COUNTIF formula. Let's say we wanted to count how many were born between a certain date. So we would go equals count if, and then we would select column G, and we put comma is greater than or equal to 3/1/20. So that's how many were born after 3/1/20. Let's say we wanted to get it between a certain date range. So then we would change it to a COUNTIFs formula. We would add a comma, select the same column again, and then we would add, so say we wanted between 3/1 and 5/1. So then we would add less than or equal to 5/1/20, end it. And it'll automatically update. So 13 rabbits were born between 3/1 and 5/1. And then to go over pivot tables. So pivot tables are like a way of visualizing data. I really like them because they're simple, clear, and easy to understand. So let's say we wanted to create a new one about how many black rabbits are still in my barn. So you can see over here, I have a color category and I have a still in my barn category. So we're going to be using those 2 to create this pivot table. So in order to create a new one, you have to highlight the whole board and then go to data and pivot table, and you're going to have to create a new one. And then we're going to want to add rows of color, and we want to add values as the still in my barn. And if you don't show the totals, it'll be a little bit easier to understand. And then we want to add filters because we only want the black ones. So we'd go to color, and you could hit showing all items, and you'll be able to select which one you want to see. Taking away the blanks will take away this blank spot in the corner up here. And you hit OK, and it'll show you the total number that are still in my barn of blacks. So that is how I would go over DATEDIF, COUNTIF, and pivot tables. It's really helpful for me because it's all in one spot and I'm able to do a whole bunch of calculations that if I didn't use Google Sheets, it would take me a lot longer to analyze and calculate the data.